Right, what we're going to use today to do the flowers is going to have a pair of normal tweezers, stainless steel tweezers, a pair of mashers, stainless steel mashers, some transparent green 8mm glass rod, a little bit of yellow for your daffodils when we get to do daffodils, a little bit of amber, and a little bit of white, so 204 white or anise, whichever you want. And to start with, we're going to just pull some stalks for the flowers. So the stalks, relatively easy to do, it's like pulling a stringer but with a little curve. Just popped in it at the last minute. So what we need to do is to heat up about the size of a broad bean with your 8mm green. And you'll probably find it easier to stretch this outside the flame. I tend to use another rod rather than, I know a lot of people use chopsticks and tweezers and pliers. I just find it a little bit easier if you're using a glass rod, and there's less chance of it shocking the glass, especially in the case of the tweezers and pliers and cracking halfway through the stretch. So, as I said, about the size of a broad bean, nice and warm all the way around, and then just tack on your other piece of glass, and then outside the flame just start to stretch. And use the flame just where you get little thick bits, just to thin it down. Keep stretching, and you're looking for a couple of millimetres, and then just put a little curve in and just hold it for 3 to 4 seconds, and then you can flame off the end bit, and then using your tweezers you can just crack the other side. So the next bit is to show you a leaf as well while we're waiting for the stalk to cool. So just take off the piece there that you used from the stalk, and again heat up about 10-20mm of the rod. You don't need to melt it into a ball, you can just use it as a nice warm rod end. And this time we're going to pinch it with the tweezers and just pinch 2 lines along the rod. So just at the flame, nice and hot, and you put 1 pinch mark and then a second pinch mark, so you end up with that, and then again back in the flame, and just holding, this time more out of the tweezers, just start to warm a little bit and stretch, and this will give you sort of like either like a blade of grass sort of shaped leaf. And again hold it for a couple of seconds, and then just use that end to put a little point on. There we go. So you have a nice twisted flat leaf. And now we can get on to doing the first of the flowers. The first one we're going to do is a snowdrop. And just taking a little bit of the amber rod that you've got, just the normal 4 to 5mm amber. Take off the end so we don't get any bubbles. And you just want to start with a little ball. So only about 4 to 5mm round. You'll find the snowdrop is the easiest flower to start with because you've only got to squeeze 3 petals on. So just get a nice little sort of round amber ball on the end of your stalk, and then taking a little bit of your white glass and this time you're going to go to the side of the ball and you're going to place about 10-15mm. It doesn't have to be perfectly smooth or round. As you can see there, it's just sort of an elongated drop, and then as that starts to cool, heat up the next piece of white glass, and you're going round, so another third of the way round, another drop. And don't panic too much about the size at the moment. and again a third of the way around. They should be equally spaced, and heat that drop up, and this time just take your mashers and just flatten the drop so you form a nice little flat area, and then go around with the second one and the third one. And you're just making sure with the flame that you're not in the stalk or touching the stalk of the flame. So now you've got 3 round discs, and then just warming the top half of the flattened petal until it goes sort of translucent, and then start to, with your white rod, just tease it out until you get a nice little point. So it takes on the petal shape. Again, just heat the top half of the petal and then out of the flame, tease it out. And again, just warm the petal and start to pull it away, and you should end up with 3 equally spaced little white petals, and then going nice and high in the flame, about 4 to 5 inches up, and you're warming about 1 inch of the stalk. So in the flame, when you're wearing your glasses, the flame almost disappears, and you can just see it starting to melt over, and what you're after is a very, very gradual bend, some, realistic bend, and that should be a little snowdrop. Yeah. So I've got that can go into the Microlite now, or cooling bubbles, or whatever you work with, or it can go straight in the kiln. And then you've got your leaf, which you've just, there you go, you've just tipped off your leaf. So 3 flowers, 3 leaves. Now I'll just do another stalk, and I'll show you how we do a daffodil. The daffodil is the same as saying, and they're sessile in quite a lot of the different flowers, because it'll have 5 petals on this time and a trumpet in the centre. So again, just warm about ½ inch of the glass rod. It's quite handy practice, this, just for pulling stringers. Just get it nice and hot all the way along. And again, piece of glass rod, just any old colour, and you're just going to use this as your ponty, and tap it on, and then just start to stretch. And as I said, if you get any thick parts on the stalk as it stretches out, just use the flame to warm it ever so gently, and then just at the last minute, little curve. So that's your stalk there. And you just crack it, just touch it with cold tweezers. And then just get a bit of your yellow glass, so just pull a tip off this because it's a little bit dirty. This should be cool enough to touch, which just about is. Now this time, instead of doing, well, we're going to start off with the ball like you did with the snowdrop, but we're going to slightly flatten it, and by flattening the ball slightly to form almost like a washer, that'll give you the extra room you need to get the 5 petals on, because you're going, remember the snowdrop only had 3 petals on, this time you're going for 5. And the first time you do this, you'll end up running out of room, and you'll end up with 4 petals, but it's all a little bit of practice, that's all it is. So you start with your ball of yellow, and then just with the edge of your mashers, warm half the ball and just push it back into the stalk. So you end up with this nice little disc, or like a washer. And then we need to put a trumpet on for the daffodil. So again, heating just a tiny little amount of the yellow glass and then into the flame and just pull away. There we go. So just let it hang down naturally, and then again with the bottom of the mashers, just flatten that off so that I've got a bit of flat area. It's almost like making the body on a mushroom. And if you're feeling really brave, we can just go around and put some little tiny little edges. Let me see, just there we go. Now the petals are done exactly the same as we did the snowdrops, a little bit smaller this time because you're not needing so much glass on them. So heat up about 5mm of the rod and just tap that onto the edge of the disc, and just make sure you do it nice and tightly. Remember, you've got 5, not 4, to get on this one. And again, don't spend too long trying to get every blob or every petal the same size. When you flatten them out, you can always change the size and flatten one a little bit more than the other one to make it a little bit bigger if it needs to be, or one a little bit thicker than the next one if it needs to be smaller. So we're getting there now. We've got 4 blobs on, and this is your 5th blob, and you should be working pretty quickly. And you're not worried too much about the cracking because everything's still relatively warm. Warm up your blobs and just go around and start to flatten them off. And again, just using the edge of the flame, you're able just to warm each one without touching the trumpet in the centre or the stalk on the edge. And if you've got your miner or your alpha burner or your bobcat, no problem at all. If you've got a hot head, you might struggle on this one a little bit because it's quite accurate where you're heating. And again, just the top third of the torch, of the petal, sorry, and just pull it off. And they don't have to be too long, these, because the petals on the daffodil are only just almost round, but just with a little point coming off the top. Should have had a shave, shouldn't I? Scruffy hair, but. And then just pull that last one off. So you end up with, there's your daffodil. Now if you want to do a narcissi, you can just use the yellow in the centre for the trumpet and white for the petals. And again, very high up, so the flame's disappearing, and just run it up and down the flame, the stalk about an inch. And very slowly the weight of the flower head will just start to pull it over. And then as it does, take it from the flame to stop it. You don't want a 90-degree angle, but what you want is a really nice sort of delicate droop. And that's your daffodil. So you've got your snowdrop and your daffodil. How simple is that?